Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator. Today we have James Gabber with us. How are you today, James?
Good. How you doing, Cedric?
I'm doing pretty good. Where are you geographically?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati, Ohio. What's it like there?
It's not too bad today. I think it's nice and warm. No rain or anything.
Okay. You guys got cicadas out there?
Not yet. They haven't shown up yet, but I know they're coming.
This is the year, correct?
Yeah. This is supposed to be the big year for it. Yeah.
Wow. How often do the cicadas come out there?
I know every 17 years is when the big one comes, but I don't know what the year is for the smaller ones.
Okay. So in the next few weeks here, you're gonna go outside, and there's gonna be cicadas everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much just everywhere.
Talk to me about what it was like. Did you grow up in Cincinnati?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Talk to me about what it was like growing up there.
I mean, it's come a long way since at least the downtown area has. If you've not been to Cincinnati in a long time, downtown has essentially grown up. It used to be you go downtown for like Cincinnati Reds games or a Bengals game or something, and now you can go down and you could go to eat at tons of restaurants, fantastic food. We've got a huge park now right on the riverfront that's walkable. It was a concrete jungle just maybe 10 years ago, and now it's beautiful.
Right. Sure. So it's about more than just the baseball games down there now. So it's about more than just Cincinnati Reds opening day.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Right. Okay, that's good to know. Where did you go to school?
Winton Woods.
Okay, the entire district, elementary, middle school, and high school, all Winton Woods?
All Winton Woods, and then I went to Miami University up in Oxford, Ohio.
Okay. What was the Winton Woods school district like?
It was good. It was different growing up in Winton Woods. I think it's a different atmosphere than probably a lot of other schools.
Why do you say that?
That's a good question. It's just, I'm not sure how to explain it. I just think it was a different atmosphere, you know? I mean, you went to school with me for a little bit. So you kind of understood what the atmosphere was like. I don't know how many schools you went to before you came to us. So I can't really explain what was different. Just if you go to different schools, and I went to a couple other ones just touring for what was it? AQT, academic quiz team I was on. So we went to a handful of other schools, and it was a different atmosphere there.
What was the academic quiz team? What's that about?
It was kind of like I don't want to call it kind of like Jeopardy, but it was like a harder Jeopardy.
Wow, harder than Jeopardy, huh?
Yeah, we weren't very good. I'm not gonna lie.
Did you guys get like a bank? Did you guys get like a bank of questions that you had to be prepared to answer?
It wasn't really a bank. It was just we would have topics, and we would just kind of answer within those topics, and they were kind of pulled randomly. So you would sometimes get a geography question, and if you thought you were good at geography, you were in that round.
Okay. All right. Cool. What kinds of things did you do for fun? Were you a Pokemon guy? Were you a Digimon guy? What types of things did you do for
games? I mean, you can see my headset right now.
Gamer headset.
Yeah, right. Perfect for gaming. But But I also did a lot of stuff as a kid outside. Growing up, we played basketball almost every day with a handful of kids, just running around the neighborhood, playing whatever came to mind.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have 2 brothers and 1 sister, all younger.
And where do you fall? Where do you fall in that order?
I'm the oldest. Yeah, they're all younger than me.
Oh wow. Okay. I had another guest who was an oldest sibling recently, and I always say the eldest sibling has a leadership type of mentality, initiative taker, generally somebody who looks to take care of other people. Would you say that that's you too?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. There's a big age gap too. So my oldest brother is about 6 years younger than me.
Okay.
And then it goes down from there. My sister's the youngest, and we've got an 11-year gap between us. So it's definitely one of those things where you've kind of done it already, and so they come to you sometimes for advice, and questions, and stuff.
Right. So I want to know, when did you realize that you could be a creator?
Probably around 6th grade is when I started really getting into it. I had always told stories growing up. My family tells me of stuff, embarrassing things, crazy stories that made no sense while we were driving in the car. But then about 6th grade, I just started writing in spare time. And 7th grade, we had study hall. And study hall, if you had nothing to do, you had to find something to do. Otherwise, they give you more work. So I just started writing for fun. And from there, just kind of grew more and more until actually in high school, I was writing for English class. We had a whole bunch of different things to write for, and loved it so much. The teacher actually was starting a journalism class the next year. That's how I kind of got into my background of journalism. Okay.
Wow. And what was journalism like for you?
It was fantastic. I miss it, quite honestly. But it's kind of hard to tell the kind of stories that you want to tell. Journalism, you're right. Right now, journalism has completely changed from what it was.
Right. I'd even go so far as to say that mediums such as these, where we're essentially bringing stories over the airwaves, are a different type of journalism, because we're essentially delivering messages through media.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say you're doing more journalism than I am right now. Just this kind of interviewing is something that I miss. Telling stories, whether it's something more in depth and personal, or something that you can get into with podcasting now. You could do so many things to tell a story.
Right. That's right. Yeah, I think it's important for everybody to express themselves in different ways. And however you find a way to express yourself, that can be used as a tool to guide you to a bright future. And so when was the first time that you actually wrote a piece that you were like, okay, I think this is good?
Probably freshman year of high school. Was when I started writing and thought it was good. Looking back at some of the stuff, it was terrible. But that's I think that's what a lot of writers do. They'll look back and say, this is bad. I don't like this anymore. And they want to fix it. Right.
And what was the name of your first piece that you thought was good?
Oh, I can't even remember at this point. That's it's been too long. I would say the first one that I could probably remember, it's probably college. I wrote a piece that was called The Connection. So The Connection was a short story that I expanded. That's how much I liked it. I expanded to a full book. It never went anywhere, but I did write it into a full novel.
Wow. How old were you when you wrote your first novel?
Probably sometime in
whether it was published or not.
Probably in high school, I wrote stuff that was novel length. Nothing I would be proud of, but I wrote stuff back then that was fairly long. Actually, the book that Kinrata is based on something I wrote back in high school. That was about senior year of high school.
Okay. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking to James Gabbard. He is somebody whose story is unique because James has been writing novel-length pieces of art since he was in high school. And I know a lot of people who they want to express themselves, and it's a big challenge. It's a major challenge. And so when you get an opportunity to pick the brain of somebody who can write novels or anything that's novel length, you want to learn how their brain works, and so we want to have a conversation today and just pick the mind of James Gabbard. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
Right. So talk to me about the book Kinrata. What's the theme of it? How did it come about, and what makes it such a dynamic read?
So it's a medieval fantasy world. Let me just tell you what it's about. How about we do that? It's essentially about a kingdom that was in a war, a very long war that took over many years, so long they forgot what the war was about. Guy came along, called himself king, took over, and decided he was going to finish this war out. So now it's about 3 months after all of that. He has invited all of the old royalty to live with the royalty in his new kingdom. So all the old ones are now in the main little town area. And it's just kind of a look at him trying to unite the kingdoms together and stories of people in the kingdom.
Wow. All right. Can you explain the climax of the story a little bit?
I could, but it would give so much away.
Ooh, people have to go out and get the book. Where can people find it?
People can find it. It's in print on Amazon. They can also find it digitally on Amazon Kindle and Apple Books. Okay.
All right. So where do you and Katie Walker says James has always been a great writer. I was on a WWHS, that's Winton Woods High School, newspaper staff with him.
Yes. Hi, Katie.
Where does this stuff come from?
Just kind of comes to you. This was, and like I said, this was an old idea that I had to do some kind of story with medieval. That kind of era was neat to me, and just easy to pick up fantasy stuff. Because you can do so much with fantasy and magic and all sorts of different things.
What is the medieval era? What is that?
So medieval era, you're talking about your knights, your kings, your squires, all sorts of things that think of Game of Thrones as a good example, Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Those kind of have like a medieval-esque era.
Okay.
Fantasy world. So it's not, there's no technology, you don't have phones, you have swords, you don't have guns. Mm-hmm. It's definitely different than the kind of fighting. You don't solve things with words, you solve things by taking out your sword.
Okay. So we're talking about a period of time where everybody's using brute force.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Reminds me of the movie 300.
Right. Yep. That's a great example of kind of a medieval-esque era.
Okay. So Kinrata is set in a sort of 300-esque looking scene.
Yeah, you could say that. They might not be as unclothed, but they are definitely, knights and squires and princesses and all sorts of people of that kind of ideology. Caliber, that's the word to use.
Yeah. What's a squire?
Squire is a person who is in training to be a knight.
Oh, okay.
So all the people who are usually men, there were a handful of women back in the medieval days. So the men are sirs and the women are ladies.
Okay. All right. I was once told that in order to write a book, it's going to be helpful to you to read a book. Did you read any books that helped you to understand how to lay out and format Kinrata?
Oh, certainly. You know, a lot of my favorites growing up are probably ones that classics that people know. Fahrenheit 451,
Okay.
To Kill a Mockingbird. Great favorites of mine. 1984 by George Orwell is probably a huge inspiration for me. But really, it's media that kind of influences you too,
Right.
just in general, at least these days.
Right. Yeah. And it's also been said that writers write. So I'm sure that you get some level of advancement by just simply writing.
Right. Yep. Definitely. Just kind of starting. Honestly, just start writing.
Mm-hmm.
And you have ideas.
What do you do about writers? What do you do about writer's block?
Honestly, I take a break. Try to find something new. Is what I do. So whether that's going to some place you've never gone before, just taking a drive somewhere, eventually you'll start thinking about it and you'll get an idea.
Mm-hmm.
You could have an idea in the shower for all you know.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So what will there be a Kinrata Part 2?
No announcements yet.
Okay.
It is planned to be a series.
Okay.
But I have no announcements yet about a sequel.
Okay. One of the things that piqued my interest was that I saw you on Facebook, because I think social media is a great way of having a glimpse into people's lives these days. Mm-hmm. You were saying something like, I'm gonna write a Kinrata for Dummies or something like that. And you were talking about like different just like how to for dummies books. And I was like, is he joking or is he really writing books?
No, that was an April Fool's joke. That was
okay.
I do an April Fool's joke every day, every year.
Okay.
So that was my April Fool's joke this year that I thought, post that up. Kinrata for, I don't remember what they were, but they were all parodies of other popular books. And I think one of them was like how to eat like somebody in Kinrata, and it was all about eating rats.
Right. Wow. So I think it's so cool that you essentially created your own world called Kinrata. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, the whole kingdom and this whole world has different creatures and all sorts of different lore. I've created actually 2 different languages for this book.
Wow.
So I can't speak it fluently, so don't ask me to.
Okay.
But people in the book can speak it fluently. You don't have any idea what they're saying. I could translate it, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what they said either.
Wow. Can we get one word? Can we get one word?
One word. Let me bring that up. Hopefully, I don't lose you here. I've got it. I've got my little translation. I'll put into like an Excel sheet, so I could translate almost any word into it. So let me bring this up. We can
create a language.
Yeah, literally created a language. It has rules to it. So let's see. So there's 2 languages. There's the ancient language of Verlantique or the modern language of Naelish. Which would you prefer there, Cedric?
Let's start with Verlantique.
Verlantique. All right. So let's see. To say the word, I've got so many different ones translated here. Let's say friend. That's a good one. In Verlantique, would be Talinch. That would be friend in Verlantique. Talinch.
Okay.
See, I don't think I have. About the other. Yeah, Naelish is a little more considered a more modern language. So these are both used in the book. as magical languages almost. So Verlantique is kind of an old magical language, while Naelish is both a language and used for magic.
So we're talking about spell casting a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Sorry, just trying to find a good word for you here. Here you go. Peace is a good one. Peace is Ria.
Wow.
So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're doing in the in the book. And you could I could translate pretty much almost any word. There's a handful of rules that where it won't translate correctly. But yeah, we can. It's 2 different languages in this book.
Wow. Okay, and so you created a world. In that world, there are 2 different languages, and then you created some creatures.
Creatures,
do they have names?
They do. Actually, I think we're going to read about one here in a little bit. But I created so many creatures. Just going to bring some things up here. You might hear some things that you've heard of before, like a chimera. If you're ever into any of those ancient old creatures, chimeras are creatures that are part dog, part I can't remember all of. I think they're part lion, part all different other things. They've got like a goat head coming out part of it. So I kind of took these old creatures and changed them a little bit. So the chimera in this world is like a pet for the royalty. So you're looking at a small little creature that has all little pieces of all these other animals.
Right. Wow. Any other examples?
Yeah. Let's see. We could probably pull up. Let's see. Let's say the Magni snake. Let's pull that one up here.
Wow.
And people can learn all about these creatures. I have an entire lore category on the website if they want to learn more. Website www.kinrada.com. There's a whole lore about creatures to learn more about what's even in the book. But the Magni snake is a snake that lives out in the woods, real small, and it actually is believed to go through different dimensions in the book. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's what it's believed to do. You'll read on the website, it's written in the point of view of one of the characters who is an expert on creatures in this world. And he's going to tell you he doesn't believe that's true.
See, I think that what you've done here is so powerful, James, because once you actually create your own world, then the possibilities become endless, and you can invent things on a regular basis that will form a cult to an extent around the actual culture of this place that you created called Kenrada. Do you see that taking place?
Not yet. I've had some great feedback of people who've really enjoyed it. But I definitely have built this world up. Just all these kingdoms, all these towns, all the people, the different kinds of magic. We have different kinds of religion. It's really just a built up world, kind of like other stories that you've probably seen before.
I've never read nothing like this before. I've never even heard of something like this before, where you're creating your own world where there is multiple languages and it's as imaginative as this. Talk to me about the power of writing. What do you think is the power of writing?
Power of writing. I mean, it gets your story out, whether it's fictional like mine or it's something that you just need to put down into words. Because that's what I did for a long time. Was growing up, you don't find the right words necessarily to say out loud. So you want to sit down and just write out a story. tell how you can put your own emotions into it. You can put your own feelings into it if you want. You can take emotions from other people and how you think that they felt about something. And you can even create fictional stuff like I have here. Um, it's so powerful. You can create emotions in people, which is yeah, that's think of To Kill a Mockingbird and how powerful that was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sending just a message out, especially in the era that it came out in.
Right. Wow. So, what would you say to the young author out there who is trying to figure out how to get started? What do you think they could do to craft a Ken Rada, so to speak?
Start writing, honestly. It's going to take a long time probably to get to a point where you might be creating this world, but create it anyways. As long as you've got the imagination, you've got the ability to sit down and with a pen and paper and just create these different things that link to each other. You can do it.
So, in other words, writing is a muscle.
In a way, yeah, it's something that you learn and you make it better as time goes over.
Yeah. I think, yeah. To me, in my different type of world, I see that there are physical muscles, but then there are also intellectual muscles that we need to strengthen. And I think writing is certainly one of those muscles. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's something that you strengthen. The best part of it, though, is that it's not something that you can strengthen by yourself. With other muscles, you can go to the gym and you can lift weights and you can do all sorts of stuff by yourself. With writing, I think it's a group effort. I can write and write and write.
Wow.
But if nobody's, sorry, go ahead.
No, you were continuing down that direction. I was going to ask you to talk about how strengthening the muscle of writing is a group effort.
Yeah, definitely. Because like I said, if you go to the gym, you can do a lot of muscles by yourself. With writing, I could write, but never get better because I don't get any feedback. So I think writing is kind of a group effort to where if I'm writing something that is great, that people enjoy, they can give me that feedback. But if they're like, this is bad, this is written terribly, I can't understand what you're saying, it's also a communication tool. So if you're not communicating right, you're not growing anything at all.
Okay, that's powerful. That's powerful. Writing is a muscle that you grow in tandem with other people's input.
Definitely. I would not be as strong of a writer as I am if I didn't take certain college classes.
Mm-hmm.
Because they gave me feedback that I learned from. So, and just taking certain classes in high school, even.
Mm-hmm. Where do you draw the line between constructive criticism and the types of feedback that you're just not going to use at all?
It depends on what I guess how it's worded. Probably, if someone's just like, I don't like this, change everything. That's not helpful.
Right.
But constructive criticism is more, I don't understand this. I don't know how this works. Or saying something like, this is voiced in a certain way that doesn't make sense. Or, hey, you had this issue up here, a plot hole or something. Those are fantastic constructive criticisms.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to the incredible James Gabbard today. He has a wealth of information and creative insight on what it takes to write a book, which I think is one of the keys to us being a successful community. We're going to get right back into this interview after a brief message. And we're back. So we're talking about the difference between constructive criticism and information that you just can't use. Do you draw a line if somebody just says, I don't like that? Do you believe them and say, hey, I need to go back to the drawing board and restructure this whole thing? Or do you say that's not really helpful?
It depends on what it is. If it's something like I don't like this and they give a reason for it, then I might agree with them and say, you know what, I don't like this either. But if it's something just like, I don't like this, and it's something small, I don't like this character's name, and they don't have a reason for it, and it's something that's not hard to pronounce, say the name of the character is James, and they're just like, I don't like the name of this character for some reason.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to take that back and go, all right, I'm not, that's not helpful. But saying, I don't like the name James because your name is James and that's weird, then yeah, I might reconsider.
Okay. Now, when somebody says, I don't understand, and first of all, I want to know, what do you do with that comment? I don't understand. Like this particular passage right here, I don't understand it. What do you do with that?
You look at it and you say, is there a better or clearer way to make sure they do understand? And that could go from because I used a certain word, because I worded it a certain way. Being clear in your writing is probably one of the top 10, maybe even top 5 things that anyone writing needs to do. If someone can't understand what you're trying to say, then you're not really telling a story.
Right. What does it mean to be clear? That was a great point, by the way. If people can't understand what you're saying, then you're not actually telling a story. I think that was a great quotable by the great James Gabbard, one of the best authors of our generation. I want to know, when somebody says that they can't understand and your objective is to write clearly, how do you write clearly? What does that mean?
It's really just dependent on what you're saying. If it's something complicated, it might be that unfortunately you've not gotten the point across and you just need to straight up say what you're trying to do. Okay. If you've got characters who are supposed to be sneakily going through the story and doing something, you might at the end finally just go, hey, guess what? This is the person who was doing sneaky stuff, instead of just leaving it open.
Right. Gotcha. So, finding different ways to come at it, because one of the things that I think about when I'm writing is like, maybe I can explain this a different way once or twice, but if I make it, way more simple than it was in the beginning, then does it lose some of its artistic quality if I make it too much more simple?
That that's another thing is you see people who are huge writers and they love writing in a certain way, and take Lord of the Rings. I'm not a big fan of it because of how it was written. Okay, it's written in a certain kind of I wouldn't say language, but just how they wrote it. J.R.R. Tolkien. Classical, fantastic author. I just can't personally get into it because of how he wrote those stories. So if you're trying to put people into a certain idea, maybe don't change it. Maybe don't change that artistic quality. Okay. Who are some of your favorite authors? I mentioned George Orwell before, Ray Bradbury. Totally different than what I've written here, but fantastic stories. Love a lot of the stuff that they've done.
Right. I think that all types of writing are important, and I think that when you want to plot your future, see, for me, I'm always thinking about youth in foster care. I don't know if you know this about me, James, but I spent years of my life in the foster care system. Right. And as I got older and I decided to start speaking and going across the country, speaking to different youth from around the country, I began saying to them that you have to write in order to be right to an extent. In order for you to have an idea of what's going to happen in your future and the role that you're going to play in it, it could be helpful for you to write that out. So whether it be a sheet of goals, whether it be a short story or a narrative of who it is that you want to be, when you go back to explain your thoughts to somebody in the future, you want to make sure that you have those thoughts accurate, and you can do that by writing them down. And also, making a prediction in your own life by writing it down. Writing, to me, is something that can make things real in your life. So you might not have the money to make something real, but you can draw it.
Right.
You might not have the authority to put something in Barnes and Nobles yet, but you can still stack those papers up in your bedroom or in your living room. And so I think writing is a great power, especially, or in addition to everybody else, writing is a great power for young people who might feel that they are in a position of stress. Writing can help you work your way out of stress, if you will.
Oh, definitely. It's a great way to express yourself. And honestly, it's probably one of the easiest and cheapest you can do. If you've got a pen and paper, you can sit down and just write how you feel, whether that's a journal that you keep every day, whether that's just a dream journal, even just thoughts that come through your mind. Just getting them out can make you feel a lot better to process these things.
Right. And then I look at you and I say, James is an author. And I think that my respect for you has grown even more than I already had respect for you, because I see you as someone who has accomplished something. And so writing essentially elevated your quality of life. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. It's like I said, it's a great way to express yourself, whether that's through journal or with me with fictional stuff. It's a great way. You've got ideas flowing through your head, and sometimes you just need to get it out onto paper. Right. And this was something, this book especially was just ideas that had been flowing through for a long time. I hadn't written for a very long time when I started writing this one. So it was just, that's probably why it's so long, quite honestly. But but yeah, it's just a fantastic way to express yourself.
Okay. There is power in writing, without a doubt. Steve Cleary says, James, do you write on a schedule at a certain time every day? Do you block off a certain amount of time, or try to write a certain number of words a day? Or do you write them when the muse hits? You may have covered this already, but I'm just tuning in.
Hey, thanks for the question, Steve. Honestly, it's probably when the muse hits. It's with this book, especially, the muse was hitting for nonstop. I spent a lot of time doing this book, pretty much every free moment I had. This was 8 months of work. I would come home from my normal job at night and start writing pretty much until early in the morning, 3-4 o'clock in the morning. Then on my off days, same thing. Still get home late at night, stay up till 3-4 in the morning, just writing and writing and writing. And the thing about writing, though, is it's not just writing, it's editing. So you don't stop, you don't stop with, all right, I wrote this one line, I wrote this one paragraph. You write it, you keep going, and then you come back to it to say, all right, does this work with the entire story?
Okay. Wow. What are the different parts of an effective story?
Well, you mentioned earlier the climax, but you also want to have at least a protagonist or protagonists. You don't necessarily need an antagonist, but you need something that pushes them. You need things that push them forward, at least in fictional writing.
Mm-hmm. So you need good guys and bad guys.
You need at least a conflict. You don't necessarily need bad guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that conflict can be something, inside of someone. If someone's just throwing this out there, let's say we decided to write a story about drug addiction, and the antagonist is their addiction, It's not a person.
Okay. Great. Wow. That's another good mental note to take. I want to give the people just a little bit of a taste of the book Kenrata. What are we getting when we go out and buy this book? And so, if you would please read us a quick passage from the book
Sure,
Kenrata.
Yeah. Let me grab it here. I will read the first paragraph, just kind of get you guys into the book here. So let me get a little close to the mic so we can get a little personal.
All right.
All right. So chapter 1 starts. The sun rose over the fields of the town of Alifa as two small birds flew over the sleepy town. Their feathers glistened in the morning light, shifting their colors through a rainbow palette as the people in the kingdom began their day. It had been a few months since the kingdom of Kenrata was formed, and King Royce took his throne. The war was long, but the king, now sitting on his throne in Alifa, promised to unite the kingdoms under one. So that's the first paragraph there.
Wow. Okay, so we're talking about a king who wants to unite kingdoms.
Correct. That's what the story is a lot about. But really, it gets into it after that, and you learn more about the lives of the people in Alifa, and you follow some of them outside of Alifa too.
Wow. What's Alifa?
Alifa is the center kingdom. It's the center town of this kingdom. So Kenrata is built up of about, I think it's 7 kingdoms. And Alifa is the middle one where the king sits on his throne.
Okay. All right. Let's take a comment from the audience here.
Sure.
Stephen Cleary says, oh, yeah, you need to read the audiobook version.
Well, thank you, Stephen.
And Jessica Matthews says, would you ever want to turn this book into a film?
I don't know about film. If anything, it's such a long story. I think it'd probably work better with like a TV show, maybe.
Oh, okay, like a multi-season.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to make to take everything and put this into one film because it's just so long. I've actually got a copy here. You can see it's a little thick.
Oh my God!
Let's see how many pages.
Man wrote a dictionary.
Yeah. This is about 630 is the max page count there.
Wow.
So it's a little long.
Now what's the total amount of time that it took you to write that?
About 8 months, and that is nonstop. Yeah, this is probably the fastest thing I've ever written and the longest I've written. I'm surprised it actually turned out like this. 8 months from start to finish, and it's still incredible. Yeah, it's I honestly I gained weight writing this because this was almost every minute that I had free. Off days were spent waking up late morning and then writing all day.
Were you working at the same time?
I was, yeah. So this was essentially like a second job to me.
Yeah. This is an incredible story of determination, of will, of integrity, and of drive. I think I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed. Wow. How many hours a day would you say that you spent writing?
Per day, I would say probably around 5, maybe. And as I mentioned before, it's not just writing, it's also editing. So a lot of people, when they write something like this, at least including myself, I wouldn't go back and edit at all. And that was a big issue because you would write something and then forget about a character maybe, or do all sorts of different things. And so it wasn't a great story. It was an okay story. It wasn't a great story though. And editing can take your story and make it great.
How so?
So one great thing, aside from just typos and things, is you might go back and say, well, this character didn't act like this. And then you change a character completely. There were multiple characters in this book where they started off one way and they completely changed how they were in the end.
Okay. You know, the last time I saw a book that large, it was either Moby Dick or the Bible.
Well, hopefully it's still entertaining for people to read that much.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a great undertaking. I mean, it would expand the mind if nothing else, and just open you up to new levels of creativity. I think that's one of the things that makes you one of the more unique writers of our generation, and it's also the reason why I wanted to bring you on our platform today, is because your ability to write at that magnitude is a talent. It's a talent that needs to be recognized. I want to know, how did you stay up? How did you stay woke? Were you drinking Red Bull after Red Bull, or
I'm just a night owl. So I mean, you know, every so often you might grab some caffeine or something, but no, I'm just a night owl. I'm naturally up that late.
Wow. Gosh, I want to know, how did you segment that piece into enough parts for you to get to 685 pages?
630.
630.
Yeah. Sorry, don't want people to think there's more than there is there. It was a work in progress. You know, you start this one. I started with just writing some outlines.
Okay.
I set up all the characters I wanted to put into it. I set up what these characters were going to do and big plot points for them. And then you start writing and you start weaving it together. One big thing I did with this was it was just the main plot lines when I first started. And this is a big thing with editing. I went back and edited a lot of the fantasy stuff into it. So you heard me read about those birds. That wasn't in there in the first draft at all. These birds didn't even exist. And they're another one of the creatures that exist in this book. They're called Miros, which you find out later in that chapter.
All right. Have you ever thought about making cards out of those creatures, sort of like Pokemon?
No, I couldn't say that I have. It's not something that's currently in the works, at least.
Okay, I think that'd be a great idea. I want to also ask you, where has writing this book taken you? For those people who might think that writing a book in particular is a fruitless endeavor, where has writing this book taken you? How has it changed your life? And if anything, what has it opened you up to that you weren't open up to before?
You know, you learn a lot about the publishing and how books are just done in general. And really you kind of learn why you write. Because some people might write for the general public so they can get out the next Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings. And for me, this was, writing for myself. It's great that I'm getting people and some fans now that are reading it. But it's really just for me, which is why I honestly haven't announced anything else yet in this series, because I want it to be on my terms, not on, publishing terms.
How do you publish the book yourself?
So self-publishing, there's a lot of different avenues, but you can go through Amazon. They've got their own self-publishing right now, which is what I've done.
Okay.
There's tons of different companies you can look at, decide which one you want to use. A lot of it though is just figuring out what you can do. You can do yourself. So with this, I had thankfully the skill set that I could not just write, but I could edit, put together the cover, create the graphics for it, pretty much do all of it.
Okay. Now, what does profit share look like? What does profit share look like when you self-publish a book?
So I mean, Amazon takes a lot of money, of course, and then you get to actually choose how much the book, the book costs, up to a certain amount. So if you want to create some sort of profit on it, make sure you've got the amount high enough. But that's another problem with marketing too. is that it can cost a lot more than you want it to. So personally, this costs a lot more than I want it to. And you have to find other avenues, which currently I'm looking at those avenues.
Okay. So you don't have other publishing houses on the table right now?
Not at the moment.
Okay. No. And your book is available on Amazon?
Correct. Amazon, both in print and digital, and digitally on Apple Books.
Okay. Got it. Noelle Smith says that her cousin loves it.
I'm glad to hear. I'm hoping I'm getting a lot of great feedback. People love this book. So that's why I'm honestly looking at other avenues to expand it.
Mm-hmm. As we round third base here, I just want to draw a little bit more value out of this conversation and ask what you think about the idea that in life it's important to manifest what you want to see in the world. What do you think about that comment?
I mean, yeah, definitely. If you want to see change of any kind, whether it's in yourself or outside, in society in general, you have to go out and at least put some effort into it. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will say, at least, say something online, create a conversation at the very least, right, about what you want to see change.
Right. I think everybody has something inside of them that at one point or another they could reveal, and it will be available to help others. I think that's what you did with your book, and that's one of the reasons why I created a TV show. It could be the reason why Stephen started his own homestead, or the reason why other people get involved and they bring things out of themselves. But I think everybody has something inside. What do you think about that?
Oh, definitely. Everyone's got a story, whether mm-hmm. it's something they want to tell to, at a party, or they want to tell in a book. Everyone's got their own story.
Yep. Everybody's got their own story. And it's not always that you're telling, like you said, it's not always that you're telling a story about something bad or something that was traumatic. Sometimes you could also tell a story that is nonfiction. You could tell a story that's pure make-believe, but telling a story is the point, that everybody should be telling a story one way or another.
Right. Yeah. If because it helps a lot of people, I think, just getting their story out there. Mm-hmm. And people probably don't even realize they're doing it, because you could tell somebody about your day and that's a story.
Yeah, that's a story. Right. Everybody has something that they can share that can help lift somebody else up. I'm a big believer that we learn most of what we learn through media. And so, at some point you've got to let media itself know who you are by writing a book, by, writing an article, by writing a note to a family member. I asked my grandmother years ago, before she passed away, to write me a note, and she couldn't do it, and all I wanted her to do was to write a note for me that I could use and pass down to my children. They could pass down to their children. Hey, listen, this is what your grandmother said. This is one of the things that she said, and so I think that one of the most important things that we can do for one another is write, so that it exists who we are, and so that can be passed down to future generations. And writing could quite possibly be one of the muscles that we need to strengthen as a community. And writing could also be one of the most underrated tools that we have available to us to really document who we are historically. What do you think about that?
Oh, definitely. History is written by the writers. If we don't know a lot about things that happened because nobody wrote it down, right, or things were lost to history.
Right.
It's amazing when you think about the I can't remember where the library was that burned down, but there was supposedly a library of that burned down, and way back, and it had all sorts of writings, and we have no idea what was in there.
Yep, the Library of Alexandria.
Yes, that's it. Library of Alexandria. So when you think of that, and just historically the amount that was lost, mm-hmm. is just amazing to me, what we don't know today.
Yep. And we regain a foundation, a cultural foundation, when we create pieces of art like writing that the future generations can see. So for the young people out there, whether you're in foster care, whether you're in a nice nuclear home, or whether you're just out there, even if you're an adult or a young professional, older professional, I want you to revisit the concept of writing. I want you to be reminded that it's a powerful tool that we have available to us, and it's an essential activity for restoring and saving the culture that we are today. We have some beautiful people in our society, and writing is one of the ways that we solidify them forever. Jessica Matthews says, I love the story that James created. I'm not a reader, but when I started the book, I couldn't put it down. The story drew me in quickly.
Thanks for the kind words, Jess. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
You know, that's the type of compliments that I think are very effective. When somebody says, I'm not a reader, but I was able to read that book, you know, that lets you know that you put a lot of time and effort into that, and that it's worth other people picking up. You know, I can only name one or two books that just flew through, that just were a fly through for me because I couldn't put them down. And so, and you know, and I remember those books. One of them was How to Be CEO. The other one was called The Other Wes Moore. Those are two books that I picked up and I couldn't put them down. So I want to commend you on what seems to have been an excellent piece of work that you've done. We're going to be looking out for whatever you have coming next, and you're always welcome on our platform. James, I want to let you know that you are someone to be respected. I want you to know that I appreciate your work. I want you to know that you're impactful. I hope that somebody out there decides to pick up your book. I'm going to possibly order a copy for my children. I'll actually have to read them, help them read through it, which would be a good activity. But I just want to let you know that what you're doing is impactful. I see you, and I want other people to see you. And you, my friend, are one of America's next motivators.
Thank you much, Cedric.
Without a doubt. And Ms. Smith also says, I'm so happy and proud of James. He worked hard on this book. Keep going. So as we close out, I have 3 questions for you. Don't let them stump you. No pressure. We've only got about 40 seconds left of this broadcast.
All right.
What is survival to you?
Ooh, man. You know, honestly, just keep going. Like Noel Smith said.
Gotcha. What is success to you?
How you define it.
Okay. What is greatness to you?
Yourself, honestly.
Wow. Very, very, very quotable today. I'm happy for everybody that tuned in today for this great discussion. And I thank you, James, for being here today with us on America's Next Motivator.
Thanks for having me, Cedric.